Our focus 8.3 is looking at two-way tables and then using that to make observations concerning the data that is presented in the two-way table. Now a little bit of definitions before we jump into looking at the data, making observations and conclusions. So the outer numbers, so the ones in our table there that are in purple, we call those our marginal frequencies. These are our total amounts. So you have totals that go across your row, and you have totals that go down your columns, and then you have your overall total for everything involved in the data. And then the inner body is what we call our joint frequencies. And so that would be these four boxes here. The reason those are kind of your joint frequency is it's where you have intersections between your categories. So here I have 14, which is 14 girls that play soccer. Or here I have 40 boys that play soccer. So those are where your intersection of your categories happen. And then the outer edge is your totals of the columns or rows, depending on which way you're looking at it. All right, so in the context that you have is you have Rashid that is trying to decide what activity to put on after school. So he's either going to have a soccer game or a dance that will happen after school. And he's going to use the data from the survey to decide which one he should do. So what I want you to do is look at the given data here. I want you to decide whether he should put on the dance or a soccer game, not both. Okay, it's going to be one or the other. That everyone will attend, and then you're going to justify it. By justifying it, you need to refer back to your table and the evidence that you used in there to justify your reasoning why you chose soccer or dance. What did you come up with? Which one did you choose?
I put that Rashid should choose the soccer game as a school event, as more people would attend than if he had chosen the dance.
Okay, so soccer due to more people would attend. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. So you agree soccer due to the majority of, and then how do you know that there's a majority of the school population?
54 out of 106 is 50%, and 52.
Okay, good. So 54 as compared to 52. So slightly higher percent there. Not by much, but still a majority. Good. Did anyone choose dance? Now, depending on how you look at the data and what you want to use, is if Rashid wanted to make the girls happy, he could have chose dance because there was a larger portion of the population, 46 compared to 14, that wanted dance. Okay, so you can look at that too. You don't always have to necessarily look at your totals. Sometimes you can look at your inner portions depending on what type of information you want to define as. Yeah, that's another thing to take into account is the number of girls versus boys surveyed. So there's a lot of things that, as you can see, and the reason why I kind of threw this one up here and said there's not really a wrong answer is because it just depends on how you interpret that data, what you want to do with it. Here's our directions into what we're going to move in next. So we're going to work with two-way frequency tables. Two-way frequency tables allow us to organize our data into categories. So we saw on the previous slide, we talked about it was broken up into boys and girls, and soccer and dance. So it gives you more information than just straight numbers. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to create a frequency table based off the information given. And then from that, we're going to write 3 sentences of observation about the data that we see within the table. So first table here gives us some information. It says there are 45 total students. So here's what I want you to do on your slide. I don't care how you do it, but you're going to annotate it somehow. You can underline it, you can bold, you can highlight it, you can change the color of the words themselves. not too worried about how you do it as long as you are doing it. So first big piece of information is it states that there are 45 total students. Then of those students, 12 of them like nonfiction, so I'm going to underline 12 with nonfiction, and the rest like fiction. So it doesn't give us a number, but we'll probably be able to figure that out later. Then it states 4 girls like nonfiction, and then 20 boys like fiction. Now from here, we can start to fill in our table. So first one is 45 total students. So that one has no category attached to it all. So that's our total of everything. So that goes in our bottom right corner of the table. The next piece of information they give us is of those students. So this is talking about all students, not just boys and girls separately, is 12 of them like nonfiction. So that means that's a total for nonfiction of 12. The rest like fiction, which maybe I'll figure out at this point. Next specific piece of information they give us is 4 girls like nonfiction. So that is girls and nonfiction. So it's that intersection there. So that's 4. And the last one, it says 20 boys like fiction. So we have the intersection between boys and fiction, which is 20. All right, go and take a little bit of time to see if you can't fill in the rest of the missing boxes there based on the information. And then we'll come back together and share out our results to make sure we're all on the same page with the data. 8 boys are nonfiction. How'd you figure that out? Good. If we look down that column, our total is 12. We knew there was 4, so we should have 8 plus 4 is 12, or you can subtract 12 minus 4. Okay, so girls 13 like fiction. At this point, we don't have enough information, but to work, yeah. So you had to work backwards from somewhere else. That's okay. We'll come back on that. Total for boys is 28. And how'd you come up with that number?
20 plus 8.
Good. Just add straight across the row. Okay. Total for girls is 17. How'd you come up with that? Good. Just add straight across. 3. And how'd you come up with 33? Yeah. So 45 minus 12 is what we knew at that point. And then, so going back to Matthews, then you could work backwards. 33 minus 20 would give you that 13. Okay, good.
Boys like fiction as opposed to nonfiction.
Okay, so more boys chose fiction over nonfiction.
Yeah.
And how do you know that?
Well, if I go to the boys column or row, compared to 8 nonfiction votes, there were 20 fiction votes.
Good. Okay, so just comparing the raw numbers there.
Yep.
Okay, good. So twice as many boys like nonfiction compared to the girls.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And how do you know that?
Because the total on the bottom, the fiction equals 33, while nonfiction equals 12.
Good. So 33 versus 12 again. Just very simple raw data. Now, our next section where we're going to look at data in terms of relative and look at percentages, because sometimes just straight numbers can be a little deceiving. Like I said, if you surveyed more boys than girls, then it might be skewed a little bit to what the boys' choices are, or just raw numbers is going to look bigger, but in reality is happening at a lesser rate than the girls potentially. All right, so similar deal for your second set of data. I want you to go ahead and fill in this table on your own, and then I'll bring us back together to check, make sure we're all dealing with the same data, and then you're going to make 3 observations based off this table as well. Sorry, so this should state 7th graders, and this should state 8th graders. Okay, so total 8th graders is 41, and how'd you know that? Yeah, it's given to us. Hey, it's a valid answer. All right. So the total 7th graders is 35, and how'd you know that? Given. Good.
They spent more than an hour on their homework.
Okay. So that's the total amount.
76 students per week.
Okay. So overall is 76, and how'd you figure that out?
I added 35 and 41.
Good. Just add your total of 7th graders and 8th graders. 35 plus 41 is 76. Total of 26 students, and how'd you figure that out?
By subtracting 50 from 76.
Good. Okay, 12 8th graders spend less than an hour. Good. 14 7th graders, and how'd you figure that out? Good. 26 minus 12 gives you the 14. So 21 7th graders spend more than an hour, and how'd you figure that out? Yeah, just working in the column. Good. And okay, 29. Good. All right, now fill in your 3 observations based off that data now that we're all on the same page with it.